Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, at least 10 people are dead and some 100 others injured after the roof of a building where university freshmen gathered for an orientation event collapses in Korea's southeastern city of Gyeongju. North Korea strongly rejects and denies the UN panel's latest report, which accuses Pyongyang of crimes against humanity and says regime leader Kim Jong-un must face justice for abusing the rights of his people. Plus, a Korean court slaps leftist lawmaker Lee Seok-gi with a 12-year jail sentence and a 10-year ban from holding public office on charges of conspiring to topple the government and violating the national security law. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Tuesday, February 18th. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. We start with news of a horrifying building collapse in Korea's southeastern city of Gyeongju. At least 10 people are confirmed dead and 17 seriously injured, and around a dozen remain missing, some presumably trapped under the debris. And for more on the current situation, we're going to connect live to our Shin Se-min, who's on the phone at our news center. Se-min?
Yes, Yuzan. This is what we know so far. More than 500 first-year students from Busan University of Foreign Studies were having their orientation in an auditorium at the Manua Ocean Resort in Gyeongju when it collapsed at around 9 p.m. Monday night Korea time. At least 10 people have been confirmed dead and 17 others have been seriously injured. Up to a dozen more are believed to be still trapped under the debris, and hundreds of fire and police officials are at the scene trying to get them out safely. The recent heavy snow and icy roads blocked the rescue operations after the collapse, delaying the arrival of the emergency staff to the site. And about 80 people are still receiving hospital treatment for minor injuries in the nearby city of Busan.
Se-min, we are hearing officials believe the heavy snow in recent days caused the roof to collapse. Is that right?
Yes, it is thought heavy snow on the roof could have caused this collapse following recent massive snowfalls across the part of the Korea, but officials say they're still trying to figure out what exactly caused the roof to suddenly fall in on itself. Also, it has been said that the structure of the auditorium was frail as it was a temporary building. And local police say that they will launch a full investigation once search and rescue efforts have been finished. Yusan?
All right, thank you, Se-min. Do keep us updated throughout the day. That was our Shin Se-min with the latest on the building collapse in Gyeongju, where at least 10 people, mostly university students, were killed and some dozen remain missing. The sheer horror of life in North Korea has been laid out for all to see in a new UN human rights report in which the international body accused the reclusive regime of crimes against humanity. Our Oh Jin-ju has the details.
After a year-long investigation, the United Nations has concluded that there have been systematic, widespread, and grave violations of human rights in North Korea. In a detailed report released Monday, the UN Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea defined the abuses as, quote, crimes against humanity, which means that most of them were based on policies and decisions made by the North Korean regime in an effort to maintain a grip on power. The report said the international community has the responsibility to protect North Koreans by applying the so-called responsibility to protect status to the communist state and urged the UN Security Council to refer the North Korean regime to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The crimes in the North are spread over 9 areas. Violations of freedom of expression, ideology, and religion, discrimination based on origin, violations of the right to movement, violations of the right to food, which then leads to issues regarding the right to life, arbitrary detention, torture, and violations associated to prison camps and abductions of foreigners. The chairman of the UN inquiry, Michael Kirby, in a personal letter written to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un last month, has warned that the commission will recommend the UN to refer the situation in the North to the ICC to, quote, render accountable all those, including possibly Kim, who may be responsible for the crimes against humanity. The report also called for stronger and continued UN efforts to enhance the human rights situation in the north, such as setting up an organization that could be in charge of follow-up measures to the investigation. The UN Commission of Inquiry is expected to report its results at a general meeting of the UN Commission on Human Rights on March 17th and adopt a resolution on North Korean human rights later that month. Gyeongju, Arirang News.
North Korea has flatly rejected the UN panel's report on its human rights abuses, saying it will strongly deal with any outside attempt to topple the North Korean regime in the name of human rights protection. In a statement sent to Reuters, the North Korean mission in Geneva also reiterated Pyongyang's denial of there being any rights violations inside the reclusive state. The U.S., on the other hand, welcomed the UN report, saying it offered a strong proof of the North Korean regime's vast and systematic human rights abuses. Seoul also welcomed the UN's findings. Pyongyang's longtime ally Beijing, meanwhile, said taking a country's human rights issue to the International Criminal Court would not help in improving the rights conditions in the country. There are just 2 days remaining until the start of reunions for families separated since the Korean War. While final preparations are well underway at the venue up in the north, Seoul's Unification Ministry said it has no plans to provide aid to Pyongyang in connection with the event. Our Connie Kim reports.
South Korea's Unification Ministry said Monday the government has no immediate plans to provide food or fertilizer aid to North Korea in connection with an upcoming round of reunions for families separated since the Korean War. Unification Ministry spokesperson Kim Ui-do made the statement Monday, 3 days before the first reunions for the families in more than 3 years.
Currently, the government is not considering rice and fertilizer aid for North Korea in connection with the family reunions.
Kim did not rule out the possibility of the South sending aid, but said that will depend on the state of inter-Korean relations in the coming months. Meanwhile, a 15-member delegation from South Korea comprising Unification Ministry officials and members of the Red Cross arrived at the reunion venue on Mount Kumgang in the north over the weekend to fine-tune the details before the reunions start on Thursday. For the organizers, the weather is the main concern. Although snowplows have removed most of the 2 meters of snow that fell at the reunion site last week, the ministry said it began snowing again at Mount Kumgang on Monday. To ensure the reunion site is accessible, the Unification Ministry has deployed 15 heavy-duty snow removal vehicles to the site. Millions of Koreans were separated by the Korean War more than 6 decades ago, and some 70,000 South Koreans are waiting to see their loved ones. 83 of them will have an opportunity to reunite with relatives living in the north on the first round of the 6-day event. On the second round, 88 North Koreans will reunite with family members from the south. The reunions are a symbolic step forward in inter-Korean relations, as this is the first such event in over 3 years. The North canceled a round of family reunions last September, just days before the event was scheduled to begin. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
South Korean officials are on the ground in Egypt following Sunday's deadly bomb attack on a Korean tourist bus that killed 4 people, including 3 Koreans. Reports say the attack was likely the work of an Islamic terrorist group with links to Al-Qaeda. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
At least 4 people, including 3 Koreans, were killed Sunday after an explosion ripped through a tourist bus near a border crossing between Egypt and Israel. South Korea's foreign ministry confirmed that a Korean tourist, 2 Korean tour guides, and an Egyptian bus driver were killed in the explosion, while 12 tourists were wounded and are being treated at a nearby hospital. 15 survivors have crossed the border into Israel, accompanied by a South Korean embassy staff member. The bus was carrying 35 people who were waiting to cross the border to Israel after spending a night at Sinai, when an armed man suspected to be in his 20s threw a bomb at the bus. The Korean tourist group was reportedly on a 12-day pilgrimage that included stops in Turkey, Egypt, and Israel. The Egyptian government has declared the incident a terrorist attack and is investigating the case. The Israeli newspaper, The Times of Israel, reported Monday that an al-Qaeda-linked Islamist group has taken responsibility for the bombing on its Twitter account, promising to continue attacks on Egypt's economy, tourism, and military. Once a popular tourist destination, Sinai has been rocked by several attacks since the army ousted President Mohamed Morsi last July. Korea's foreign ministry dispatched a delegation to Egypt on Monday morning, and they will join officials from the Korean embassies in Egypt and Israel at the site of the attack. The ministry also set up a task force and held an emergency meeting shortly after the incident was reported to come up with countermeasures. The ministry has issued a special travel warning for Egypt, practically banning Koreans from visiting the region, and has asked Koreans traveling in Egypt and its four neighboring countries, Israel, Jordan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, to return as soon as possible. 황성희, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. South Korean lawmaker Lee Seok-gi of the left-wing Unified Progressive Party has been sentenced to 12 years behind bars for a rebellion plot in support of North Korea. It's the first time a sitting member of parliament has been convicted of such a charge. Kwon So-ah has the details.
The verdict is in. Leftist lawmaker Lee Seok-gi of the Unified Progressive Party has been sentenced to 12 years in prison and will be stripped of holding public office for 10 years after his release from prison. The ruling handed down by the Suwon District Court said Lee violated the national security law and is guilty of leading a clandestine pro-North Korea group called the Revolutionary Organization, or RO, which was planning to blow up key infrastructure in South Korea in the event of an inter-Korean war. The lawmaker was also found guilty of plotting to overthrow the government. The court said it found pro-North Korea documents in Lee's possession and that he had previously sung North Korean military songs, both of which are prohibited under the South's national security law. Other members of the UPP who were on trial on similar charges were sentenced to 4 to 7 years in jail. Monday's decision follows an intensive investigation that included statements made by a whistleblower from the Revolutionary Organization. The court said the RO had been planning a rebellion since March and that it included an armed revolt in the capital Seoul. Both the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition Democratic Party said they supported the verdict, while the UPP has criticized it, saying the judiciary gave in to pressure from the government. Lee is likely to appeal the case, and he continues to deny all the accusations against him. Speculation now surrounds how Monday's verdict might affect another decision currently pending at the Constitutional Court, that being the question of whether the Unified Progressive Party should be dissolved. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
With just a few months to go until the June local elections, maverick independent lawmaker An Chol-soo is putting the final touches on his new party ahead of its launch next month. It has a name now, the New Political Vision Party, which matches his campaign to chart a new course for politics in Korea. Kim Young-gil has more.
Independent lawmaker An Chol-soo has taken another step toward launching his new party next month. On Monday, the party finally got a name that matches An's vision of shaking up Korean politics. It will be called the New Political Vision Party. The name was adopted at a meeting on Monday at the Gyeongju Museum and Library in Seoul, where the lawmaker outlined his vision for the party for the some 300 supporters in attendance.
We will work towards the idea of political unity through public participation. We will deliver hope to the people, not lies. We will reform politics and work in the interests of everyone.
An and his supporters also established a central steering committee that will function as a decision-making body ahead of the party's launch next month. The committee will be chaired by An, a former independent presidential candidate who entered the National Assembly in the April by-elections. Yoon Jang-hyun, the chairman of the party's preparatory committee, said the party will be the cornerstone of new politics in Korea.
The new political vision party will embrace the ideologies of rational conservatives and introspective progressives. We urge the people to join us in paving a road to clean politics in Korea.
In the coming months, An and his aides will work on ways to boost party membership nationwide ahead of the local elections in June. The new political vision party plans to field candidates for key races in the local elections scheduled for June, which will likely spark a three-way race with the ruling Century Party and the main opposition Democratic Party. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has ordered her government to ensure the nation's broadcasting industry is not monopolized by large enterprises. Speaking during a status report by the ICT Ministry and the Korea Communications Commission on Monday, the president pointed out that small and mid-sized companies are losing their share of the broadcasting market. She said this is because conglomerates have started expanding their influence in the industry by increasing the number of TV channels they own. She expressed concern that such a trend could be detrimental to broadcasting content and decrease variety. The president urged officials to come up with balanced policies as the broadcasting and communication services sector has a great influence on the economy and people's daily lives. Sochi used to be a sleepy resort city where the rich and powerful would seek respite on the Black Sea while enjoying winter sports on the mountains. But the city, now bustling with tens of thousands of people from all corners of the world, is filled with festivities around the clock. Our Olympics correspondent Song Ji-sun filed this report from Sochi.
Practically everyone walking around Sochi is decked out in Olympics merchandise or their team uniform, and those who aren't are lined up at shops.
I waited to buy some clothes during 15 minutes. It's cool, I think.
And even if you weren't lucky enough to get a ticket to the games, you can still be part of the Olympic excitement. Here at downtown Sochi, the Olympic vibe is alive both among domestic and foreign fans who have gathered here for the Olympics. You can buy souvenirs, watch ongoing games, and cheer for your favorite athletes here at one of the live sites across the city. With tickets harder to get each day, the sites have become a place for all to join. Despite early reports that Sochi wasn't fully prepared for the games, fans are enjoying every moment, and avid Olympic fans who have been following the Winter Olympics even before the Sochi Games are already looking ahead to 2018, when the global event will be held in Pyeongchang.
So far everything has been fantastic. The volunteers have been really helpful whenever we're getting lost, and yeah, everything's been really well organized.
So we went to Vancouver in 2010, we've been here, and now 2018 we're planning to go to see the next set of games.
To these fans, the only pity is that the Olympics last for just a little over 2 weeks, and another wait of 4 years is right around the corner, just as it is for the athletes. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News, Sochi.
Now, we've just completed day 10 of the Sochi Winter Games, and we're counting the days until we can see Kim Yeon-ah defend her title in the women's figure skating event. And while she spent most of her time with her rehearsal, the drawings were out for the short program. Well, the 17-year-old Koreans were drawn early with Park So-yeon going second in Group 1 and Kim Hae-jin going fifth in Group 2. The figure queen Kim Yeon-ah was drawn in the middle as she's set to go fifth in Group 3. Now, this puts pressure on her rivals Yulia Nipnishkaya and Mao Asada, who's set to go first in Group 5 and very last, respectively. Meanwhile, Kim Yeon-a's short program is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, 9:24 p.m. Sochi time, or Thursday, 2:24 a.m. Seoul time. While the nation had high expectations for the South Korean bobsleigh team, they fell short in the two-man bobsleigh event. With South Korea's Won Yun-jong and Seo Young-woo's combined time after 4 races at 3 minutes 49.27 seconds, check that, it was good for 18th overall as Russia claims the gold medal in the event as Alexei Voivoda and Alexander Zubkov finished with a combined time of 3 minutes 45.39 seconds. Meanwhile, Switzerland and the U.S. finished second and third, respectively. And moving on, after finding out they were mathematically eliminated from the Olympics, the South Korean women's curling team went on to face Canada and lost 9-4. But for them, the future still looks bright. Despite it being their first ever Olympics, the South Korean women's curling team did manage to beat Japan, Russia, and the United States. And while they won't be advancing to the semifinals, the popularity of the sport here in the nation is as high as ever, as many believe that they'll come back 4 years later with a much better result in Pyeongchang. Now, things didn't turn out the way many expected for Team Korea during the Sochi Winter Games, but they still have a chance at adding a few more medals. And speaking of which, a couple of chances on day 11 of the Sochi Winter Games. Now, first off, while Lee Sang-hwa lived up to her expectation and claimed the 500-meter women's speed skating gold, things didn't turn out the way everyone expected for the men's side, as Mo Tae-bum and Lee Seung-hoon failed to win any medals. But Lee Seung-hoon has a shot at a medal during the men's 10,000-meter event on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the South Korean women's short track team will look to add a gold medal as they're the favorites going into the 3,000-meter relay final set to take place later on the day as well. And now finishing things off, let's take a look at the current medal count after 10 days of competition in Sochi. Of course, taking a look here, we see that Germany is still on top with 8 gold medals this time, but other nations are catching up, including Russia, who jumped up to second with 5 gold medals, with the Netherlands in third and the United States moving up to fourth. Korea still looking to add more medals as they sit in 17th place with 1 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, today will be slightly cooler than yesterday. Morning low has dropped to negative side here in Seoul and the surrounding area, but temperatures will rise with the sunrise, and today's highs are expected to reach above 5 degrees Celsius in most regions. And breezy winds will stick around, and sky will be mostly to partly cloudy. But lingering snow in Gangwon-do will continue today, and it will snow on and off through Friday with 30 centimeters of snow expected over the next 4 days. But other than Gangwon-do and parts of the east, the rest of the country can expect to have similar weather pattern persisting throughout the week. Winter weather slowly heading into spring, though be sure to dress accordingly to not to get sick. With that, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The morning low in Seoul is at -1, and afternoon high in the capital, Daegu and Busan will all get up to 6, while Gyeongju will see a high of 8 this afternoon. Now let's see how other regions are looking. Jeju will climb up to 9, Daejeon will rise to 8, while the top temperature on Mount Kumgang will be at -9. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful day.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. We'll have more details on the resort building collapse in southeastern Korea on our next newscast at 10 a.m. Korea time.